Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Straight Up with MS and all its crazy little circles here on MS and Me Radio, which is brought to you by the MS Global Support Network. I'm your host, Patty Long, and you can find me on Twitter at MSing It for Life, and I spell that MSENIT, the number 4, LIFE. As y'all know, if you listened, I've been trying to figure out YouTube, and I was on Twitter talking about YouTube and trying to figure out how to do it, and was offered help by a gentleman named Kevin, and I plan on taking him up on that help. I just have not done so as of yet because I've been struggling these past several weeks, which, I told you about that. I've been having a lot of stuttering issues, which if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen that I am stuttering a lot. I think I have that issue under control at the moment, so hopefully it does not decide to come back in the middle of recording. But, my stuttering and these kinds of issues that come up from both my intolerance to temperature change, which is a little bit different than being cold intolerant or heat intolerant because it swings both ways, so maybe it's 85, 90 outside, which is hot, and then I walk into a place that's 70, and that's too big of a temperature swing for my body to handle. And the first thing that happens is I start freezing up. All my muscles freeze up. And then I go da 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 da, and I can't speak. So that's one way it starts. And the other way, of course, is stress. Because stress is like putting your MS in overdrive. And many symptoms will come back to haunt you if you're stressed out. And of course, if you've got MS and you've already heard probably from somebody that stress is awful for us. And it's hard to remain stress-free, which is why I was talking about decluttering our lives last week. So, I'm working on the clutter and getting rid of the extraneous clutter in my life, both the junk in my house and the people who are so stressful. They're cluttering my life as well. If you've got somebody that is constantly arguing with you, constantly telling you that MS isn't real or that doesn't happen or however they want to put it, but if they're being nasty and causing stress, well, that might be somebody that's cluttering your life that you need to just step away from and say, you know what, I can't deal with you right now. Maybe at some future date when you're more open to what's going on with me, then maybe we can resume our relationship. But that's kind of doubtful because it's never been that way for me. Usually people that want to be nasty stay nasty. It's just my experience, so it's not a fact. It's just what I have experienced. But I thought I'd talk to y'all today a little bit about paresthesis, or however it's said, because I don't think I pronounced that right. But it's not paralysis, but a lot of doctors, regular neurologists, they'll call it paralysis. You've got limbs that don't respond So it's a type of paralysis, maybe. Or maybe you're feeling the tingling, like your foot fell asleep or something, and it just won't stop. It won't wake up. Or possibly it's kind of a burn sensation. And these weirdo sensations and this type of paralysis, which is not an actual paralysis, you don't have nerves that are cut in half. You have nerve signals that are running super, super slow. And so by the time it gets to where it's going, it's jumbled up. And then, of course, like how you lean on your elbow and it makes your arm go to sleep, or you're sitting funny and your foot goes to sleep. So pay attention to what's going on with you and try and figure out if there are things that are causing these sensations that you can avoid, like putting your elbows on the table while you're eating. I remember being little and told that was inappropriate. Keep your elbows off the table and all this stuff. And, for me, this has been a huge ordeal trying to overcome this kind of paralysis, because the signals were just not getting through at all. And so I was left unable to walk, unable to hold a drink, unable to sit in a chair because I just slid out like a cartoon character because my core didn't work. And I have overcome so many things. It's impossible to tell you all of them in a 30-minute period. It's impossible to tell you over days even, because I'll forget something and be like, oh, and I had this too. So, and there's a lot of weirdo symptoms that come along with MS that we just don't even think to mention, because sometimes we don't even think it's MS. We think it might be something else. So there's lots of different things. But getting back to the paresthesis. I can't say it. That's close enough, though. But what I have done has been all through physical therapy. And that's how I learned to overcome it, was through having the right physical therapy. And I stress the right physical therapy because there's a lot of wrongs out there. And what works for me has been a combination of stretching and functional strength training, which I call retraining connections. Because what I'm doing is creating muscle memory. And I work based on muscle memory. Now, remember, our connections aren't so great. And we feel all this funky stuff. For a long time, I'd stand up and it would feel like my legs were going to break, somewhere in my shin bone, because they felt like they were bowing out. But that was a muscle thing. It wasn't actually breaking, and my legs aren't bowed. They just felt like they were. So that's, that was part of it. And waking up, as I call it, these connections can be a little bit painful. But at the same time, it should not be so painful that you want to go to the emergency room. You want to go slowly with physical therapy. And you want to create muscle memory. So if I'm thinking about it too hard, especially back then, if I was thinking about it too hard, it wasn't going to work because the thought process didn't get down there. I needed muscle memory to make it work, which is why I am so pro pedaling, or at least pro floor pedals, I should say, because a lot of the bikes out there, the ones that are motorized and tell you all the fancy stuff, are way difficult to spin, and they're as much, or if not more, about getting that leg extension. And that leg extension is not the muscle memory that I needed to create. In order to walk, you need to be able to pick your feet up. And so these floor pedals, and putting them in the right position so that you can have your knees going straight up and straight down instead of your legs extending all the way out, really helps to create that muscle memory for picking your feet up. And muscle memory is the most amazing thing. It is absolutely amazing. And if you look at athletes who are training for gymnastics or diving or any of these kinds of things, it's all about muscle memory. You have to have that in place, because there's not time to think, well, I'm going to jump up and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And there's not all that thinking time. It has to be done based on muscle memory. So creating muscle memory is the way for us to get back on our feet. It's the way for us to get our arms to work. It's amazing how muscle memory works. And that pedaling created the muscle memory for lifting my legs. And I knew the moment it happened. I'm sitting there at my floor pedals, which I usually pedal outside. And I'm playing this game. It's called Zombies Run. And it gives me a story to listen to. It gives me motivation. It tells me when to go faster and things like that. And it's based on the story. And then if you get to a certain speed, you can get chased by zombies, which, you don't have to be a zombie fan. You're not looking at pictures. You're just listening to a story. So it was really, really good for me to have that story, because it helped to motivate me. It helped to train me and tell me to go faster now. And you didn't have to go faster for a long time, And the moment that the muscle memory started, and this is how I knew, I had been pedaling, and somebody walked up, and so I was going to stop pedaling. But my legs didn't stop going around. They kept going around and around and around. And that is muscle memory, y'all. That is muscle memory that was making my legs go around. And so it took a second or 2 or 3 or 5, I don't know, to stop pedaling, because the muscle memory was intact. And it was so exciting. I mean, I was just like ecstatic, because here we go pedaling along, and usually it's such a struggle, and then all of a sudden, bam, that muscle memory kicked in, and I was able to do it without my hands pushing down my knees. I was able to do it intentionally again. And the best thing of all, when I was walking, I wasn't dragging my feet, my hips, my knees, my feet, all the way down, was working the way it was supposed to work. Now, I was still weaving all around like I was drunk off my butt, but pedaling wasn't about learning to go straight. I mean, it helped with that, but it wasn't that sort of muscle memory. It was the muscle memory that I created for my legs to go up and down. And while I was doing this, I was doing other exercises as well to strengthen the muscles in my legs, and to strengthen the muscles in my arms, and to strengthen my core, which we worked on last. But, all of this took care of the paresthesis. How do you say it, y'all? Y'all know. Maybe. I hope. But this paralysis of ours, it's real, but it doesn't have to be permanent. We can change that by creating muscle memory. And so, like, the pedaling for my legs trained my legs to go up and down, which set me up to walk. And the heel toes that I do, which is really toes heels, because I always go on my toes before I go on my heels, but you're holding on to something and you go up on your toes and then back on your heels and then back up on your toes and down and backwards on your heels. And you do hold on to something, people. Hold on so you don't fall down. And when you get tired, or if you start experiencing a cramp or something, stop that movement and change it. We can overcome these things. And this is my point. We can overcome the parenthesis. The parenthesis? Maybe I should have looked up how to say the word again before doing this. But in any case, it's a solvable problem. And that's the way I look at MS. These are issues, and issues are solvable. And if we're not believing in the old crystal ball, and if we're not telling ourselves, well, I can't because I have this lesion, then it's so much better for us. As long as you have that attitude of, I can, I will get there, I'm going to do this. It may take years, but I'm going to do this. Then, it's possible. And I've met a lot of people online, not very many in person, although I've met some now. But I haven't met very many people with MS in person. And but the people I've met online, and they've seen me with the pedaling. They knew I couldn't walk. They knew how awful my MS was, even though it doesn't appear to be so awful right now. But they knew how awful it was. And they saw what I was getting accomplished. And so I've gotten a lot of others to start pedaling. And I'm so excited about that there's more people out there getting free pedals, as I call them. They're floor pedals, and you can set the tension knob to nothing, so they actually spin freely, and make it so it's not exhausting all your energy, because once you deplete all your energy, well, you're done. So you don't want to ever completely deplete your energy. You want to keep it and just create more. Using energy helps you make energy. Sitting on your butt watching Netflix might be cool, but it does not create energy, because sitting around, we're doing nothing. So our energy just says, well, she doesn't need that today. Let's say bye. And there it goes. So do your best to not sit around all day and watch Netflix. We all have those moments, those days that we just are depressed or whatever. And so we don't feel like doing anything. And I have those days. But don't let that become a habit, because that will make your energy levels continually drop, and you want to bring them up. So pedaling stopped the parenthesis in my legs, or at least partially. And then some of the other exercises, once I got my legs a little stronger from the heel toes that I did. And then there was these things that I call butt kicks that I did right after, because that releases the muscles in your legs. And it helps you to be able to stand on one foot. So, which you need to be able to balance on one foot as you're walking. So those two were really helpful. And then the third one that was super, super helpful in defeating this was what I call stomps. And it basically was stomping. That's why I called it that. But we stomped to the side. And I have a line that I would stomp across and try and stay on the line so I wasn't zigzagging or anything. And you go to the side. So you lift your knee, and then when you set your foot down, instead of setting it right back down where it was, you stomp it down to the side of you. And as you're doing this, when you first do it, your stomps aren't that wide. They're little short things. Your step to the side might only be inches. And then as you get better at it, it gets like a wider stance for your stomp. And you're stomping more and more to the side. So you bring your knee up and you stomp it on the ground. And this stomping on the ground like this really did help to end what was left of this paresthesis, because I still had the numbness and the tingling. I still don't feel my feet quite the same as I once did. But in all honesty, it doesn't matter. In some ways, it's a benefit, because I walk across the rocks or something and I'm barefoot, and it would hurt like crazy if I felt it all. But since I don't feel everything, it doesn't hurt my feet. So, in that respect, it's an advantage, I guess. So, but they're not sound asleep. So I do feel my feet now. And I didn't feel my feet for years and years and years. So those stomps really helped. And again, it was about the muscle memory. And that helped to wake it up and create, once you create that muscle memory, that connection begins to work better. And then you're not, faltering at it. You're actually doing it. And you're doing it with intent. For walking straight, I created that muscle memory as well. So I don't weave. And muscle memory is like the coolest thing ever. And I am working on it with my arms. When I trained to go on the Lady of Avenel with the Oceans of Hope Challenge, I trained my arms in a way that I would be needing to use them. That doesn't mean they work super, super well. I still can't touch my nose. If I put my arm to the side and try and hit my nose, there is no telling what I'm going to hit. Usually it's either my chin, or if I'm consciously, really putting a lot of effort. I say consciously, but if I'm putting a lot of effort into it, I might hit my cheek instead of my chin. But I don't hit my nose. And, practicing that, I don't think that's something that is absolutely important for me to be able to do. Although, when I use a fork, I would like to be able to hit my mouth with the fork and not my cheek or anything else. So, that kind of memory is still necessary. It's just maybe I don't absolutely have to touch my nose. So, but muscle memory helps very much to get rid of this paresthesis of ours and stop the paralysis that we experience, even though it's not called paralysis. It reduces the heaviness of our limbs. It creates energy instead of just using all of our energy. Because when we're thinking so hard about it and trying to do it and it's just not working, it takes all of our energy away. And we don't want to do that. So what we want to do is create the muscle memory, and then we don't have to think about it so hard. And I've seen people, I've witnessed people who couldn't lift their leg at all. And after doing these things and creating this little bit of muscle memory, can. My friend Lori, and I'm very, very proud of her. Lori, if you're listening, hello, and I will send you a message. But she's got primary progressive MS. And when I met her in 2014, maybe, somewhere back there, I think it was 2014. But when I got on Facebook and I met her, she was barely walking. And then it got worse because that's what primary progressive MS does. It just worsens. So she has not been on her feet at all. And then she has started pedaling. She's also going to physical therapy now. And she's got a good therapist. So she's doing some of my other exercises. But she sent me a video of her picking up her legs. And these leg lifts that she was doing, and I do leg lifts as well, but these leg lifts she was doing was something that she could absolutely not do before. But the muscle memory from pedaling was kicking in. And the strength was coming back. And she's a fighter, the same as I am. And she doesn't believe in the crystal ball. She's the same as I am there, too. She says, heck no, that's wrong, that's unacceptable, I refuse. And now she can walk. Now, she's not walking far. She's not to the point to, do a marathon or anything. But she's doing so well. And like me, she was told that's not going to happen. You're never going to be able to. So do not believe in the crystal ball. Believe in yourself and believe in your ability to create this muscle memory. And get you some floor pedals. They're really cheap. They're under $30 at Walmart in the U.S. And that's with taxes and everything. You can order them online and have them delivered even. And try those. And see if you can't create that muscle memory. And then try the stomping. Even if it's marching in place. Stomp to get your feet to wake up and your legs to wake up. And no, it's not pain-free, y'all. But it should not want you to go to the ER. If it's wanting you to go to the ER, back off. And oh my gosh, I can talk again because my time is up. So until next time, remember guys, don't believe in the crystal ball at all. And thank you, Erica Lyons Richardson, for creating this network. And thank you, Ted Michaels, he's our station manager, for getting all our shows up there and for helping me figure out what was wrong. And until next week, remember, smile big, smile often, laugh as much as possible, and most importantly, love yourself. Bye, guys.